Hey there, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have Tali on today. She's the medical director and founder of Arviv Medical Aesthetics, has multiple locations, and is actually based here where I am as well too in Florida. Welcome to the show, Tali. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I'm so excited to have you on because you have basically done everything that a lot of people actually dream about doing in the med spa space. You have successfully scaled your business and you've also exited.
Yes, thank
And
you.
And now that you've exited, I know that you still have a working relationship with the spa itself, and I think you're working on a few other things as well too. Can you walk me through what some of those other projects are right now?
Yeah, sure. After I exited, I decided to open the MedSpa Institute with my mom. So it's basically a training facility to train estheticians. It's a hybrid online training, and I also do all my injectables training through that. So anyone who's interested or who's already in the space, who wants more advanced skills, or they're not in the space and they want some basic skills to get in, I do one-on-one and group training for those providers. And I also have a surgery center. We have a 360 surgery center. It's a quad A surgical facility where we facilitate for plastic surgeons to come and operate on their patients.
That's awesome. And before we learn more about like how you got into the business and everything like that, I'm so curious to hear about that. Sounds like there is a common trait amongst all the businesses that you've been working in, which is like education and training. Do you feel like that's something that you've always been passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think that that's what I was going to end up doing. When I went into medicine, it was more like, oh, I'm going to be a hospitalist. I'm going to be, helping people recover from their, whatever diseases, right? And then my mom just kind of pushed me into aesthetics. And so I just went along with it, and it kind of just took me wherever we are today. I do enjoy teaching. It's not easy, but I get a lot of positive feedback, so that really humbles me and just encourages me to keep going.
Well, that's awesome that you get to work with your mother still. Actually, everybody that I've had on the podcast right now is working with their family in some capacity, which I actually think is really cool. I don't know if that's maybe unique to the aesthetics and wellness space, but um, that's so
It's
great.
possible. I mean, it's good to have, right, an extra person in the business that you know that you trust that's kind of looking out for the business too. And she's really the person who helped me get started. She really opened the med spa when I got out of residency and said, just do this, rented out the space, built it out, and just kind of she put a laser machine in there and got these girls to come in, rent the laser machine. I was their medical director, so I was getting revenue that way, just kind of as a getting started. And then those clients were coming in and they started doing other procedures with us. So I went and got training, injectables, and everything else. Bought my first CO2 laser, another device, and then just kind of kept going with the aesthetics that way and slowly grew the business. And the Tampa location really at that point is where we started.
And what year was this when you first started?
So we opened Tampa in May of 2014, and I knew nothing about aesthetics. I knew nothing about running a business. It just wasn't, anything that I did before. And so I just really just kind of started learning about it through the practice and just being there and understanding what it takes and what's involved. And it definitely helps you grow as a person. You definitely learn a lot. But we opened that location in 2014 and we had a 1,400 square foot space. And we started to kind of build momentum. And by 2016, I hired my first nurse practitioner. So before that, it was like front desk, esthetician, and the laser girls that were renting the laser device. And I, was doing everything. I didn't have a medical assistant, so the patient was coming in. I was making sure the consents were signed, the photos were taken. I'm cleaning up my room. I'm setting up my room. I'm grabbing my products, all these things that now I have like a medical assistant doing for me. But it was, I couldn't be spoiled. I was seeing patients at 7 p.m. if they needed to see me at 7 p.m. because that's when they had to come after work. I was opening on Saturdays, Sundays, like I was available 24/7 for my patients in the beginning. as we kind of grew and I was able to hire a nurse practitioner and start paying myself a salary about a year into running the business, then my front desk started kind of saying, yeah, no, you have to book between 9 to 5. So they wouldn't really let patients book anytime they wanted, even though I still had some flexibility. But that definitely helped me realize, like, I need to, do better with my schedule.
Yeah.
And just have a life beyond the business. And then the chiropractor that was taking over the other half of the building, she moved out, and so we decided to expand and take over the whole space, which was now 2,800 square feet. And then in 2017, really mid-2016, I signed a lease to go into Miami. And then 2022, we opened Ocala and Surgery Center. So that was kind of like the timeline of opening all those locations.
You mentioned that you didn't have previous business experience, but you did. Mm-hmm. You felt as if like your mother was also giving you the nudge to open up that business. Did she have a business experience that she was passing down to you?
Yeah, my mom she's like a hustler, right? She immigrated from Russia to Israel to then the US. She was doing nails, manicures, pedicures, waxing, whatever she could do to like support her kids, because she was always like the breadwinner in the family. And she opened a school at some point when she was doing nails and manicures and pedicures, laser hair removal became a thing. And it was right around, I want to say 2005 or 2006. It was like Ideal Image, 1-800-BE-IDEAL, commercials everywhere. And she's like, I don't want to do people's feet anymore. I want to go do laser hair removal. How do I do that? And there's one school in Florida, in Orlando, for electrolysis and laser hair removal. So you have to go through that. So she would drive to Orlando to get her hours in, get certified, went and bought her first laser machine. She's always kind of worked for herself. She's always been a commission-based contractor, even as a cosmetologist. And she bought her device, started offering hair removal to her nail clients. Then she rented a space and started offering services. So she was almost kind of like doing her own little med spa, so to speak. And this was all while I was in residency and medical school. She was doing all this, collaborating with other physicians, and then at some point she said, I'm tired of providing services. I'm just going to open a school. So she opened the second school in Florida for electrolysis and laser hair removal. And, got that going, got financial aid, all that stuff. And that business is still running. My brother manages it now. They're called the Beauty and Health Institute. They changed their name from Electrolysis Institute of Tampa to the Beauty and Health Institute. And they're located here in Tampa. So we graduate out of that school about 200 students a year, at least.
Wow.
In aestheticians and electrologists. So she had that business experience. Huh?
Are you hiring the students that come through there?
We have hired students from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes a lot of sense. But that's awesome. Education first, sounds like in your family, which is really great. But you did mention something that definitely stood out to me that I know that the viewers are going to want to hear more about, which is that you said that you were working for maybe close to a year without a paycheck. How was that? Was that the biggest struggle that you had to face in terms, and how did you know you were going to come out on the other side with multiple locations and so much growth?
I didn't, and I wasn't planning it, and I never thought I was going to open another location. That wasn't in my thought process at all. The exit was not my thought process at all. I just kind of went with my mom's direction, who was the school. The Beauty and Health Institute was essentially supporting this med spa for the first year, paying all the salaries, in addition to some of the revenue that was coming from the laser rental. But, so she was kind of taking care of everything until, I was able to start collecting a little paycheck.
Would you have any advice to give to maybe another med spa owner who's kind of new in the space that have one location? They're not seeing that big paycheck right now. Maybe they are paying themselves a little bit, but it's definitely not what they were expecting. Is there any advice that you would give to those people?
Yeah, that kind of depends on, what the situation is, right? Like, do you have capital in general to invest and grow faster, like utilize the resources that you have so that you could get to the point a little quicker where you have the paycheck. Or if you don't have capital, then yeah, you have to show up for your patients at any time of the day, right? You have to like be available for that revenue. You have to hustle, make it work. That's all you can do, is reduce your expenses and figure out what you can take in your hands. But at the same time, you know, I think the most valuable thing for everybody is time, right? So you want to also use your time effectively. So if you do have the resources and you can afford it, or you have the help, or you have the family member, then it's like, how do I use those resources and delegate these people to help me drive in business? And I think like nowadays with like Facebook ads and things like that, we always talk about like Facebook ads, it's less expensive, get you a ton of leads, but not always like the quality leads that you need. It's a hard conversion. So yeah, maybe it's that one person that has to do that work to find those people, you know, network more, get the word out, a little more boots on the ground, and not as much things that cost you money, right? Like communities, being part of communities, being part of networking, because people come to you for the relationships that they have with you, or they refer to you because of the relationships they have with you. And just keep doing as much as you can to have like a good reputation and good reviews, because nowadays everyone looks at, you know, reviews and reputation, right? If you don't have it, that's really what helped me grow my Miami business, because I opened that location. So there was another physician who reached out to me who said, hey, can you, let's open a Miami location together. This is my dream. I want to open a Miami location. I was like, okay, you know, my husband's from Miami. We go down there. So I'm like, could be fine. And she can be the medical director there. And I don't have to like really go back and forth as much. She kind of backed out last minute once we found the real estate and we were like ready to go. Let's sign the lease. Let's do it. She kind of backed out. She's like, you know, I'm just going to use this money to like for my wedding and whatever. And I don't know why I had like literally $70,000 saved up. And I'm like, all right, I'll just do it and see what happens. And I reached out to some friends and they had a contact for me at Bank of Tampa. And he was like, just go see this guy at Bank of Tampa. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And I showed him my numbers from Tampa and I'm like, this is what I have going on. I want to open this location. And he's like, okay. So he gave me a construction loan and working capital to basically get that place going. And then it was literally me and my mom going down once a month, doing one full body laser hair removal on Groupon, and then selling people a pack of like 5 or 6 to just cover the rent each month. And we're like, okay, we covered the rent, we're good, you know? And then that kind of started building up because we had a reputation. So because the Tampa location had a reputation, it helped us drive people into the Miami location a lot faster.
Yeah, but
It doesn't, you know, otherwise if it was just a new location, it would have been a lot more challenging. Yeah, but people trust you more, right? They trust you more even though you're new, because they see, oh, they have another location and they have a good reputation. So they must be doing something right.
Yeah, you already have the before and after photos, you have the reviews, your website is up, they can go see that you are a real brand. Is there any advice that you would give to maybe even yourself when you were just starting out, somebody who doesn't really have that brand yet, somebody who doesn't really have the reviews coming in just yet?
That's funny because, you know, sometimes when you're like cleaning things out in the house, you're suddenly like find like, oh my God, look at this old brochure that I had, or this like old business card and like this old logo, and thinking back to like, what did my website look like before it, you know, became what it is now. And yeah, sometimes initially with whatever knowledge and resources you have, you do these little Mickey Mouse things and you're just kind of like getting by, but you're trying to make things, you know, now that I know at some point somebody introduced me to this girl who like her specialty is branding, and now that it, you know, at some point it clicked like, wow, this is like, I'm 2 locations, like this is a brand. I have to do this like branding, this cohesiveness, this color, the, you know, everything that goes with that. And, you know, I realize now kind of the value in that I think a lot of people are doing that now. Now it's like social media, which wasn't there back then when we got started. I mean, 2014, things were just kind of maybe starting with social media. It wasn't like a big hype where you were constantly advertising social media. That's not where I was getting my patients from. But you do have to have, like, now I think people know, like, okay, the logo, the brand, the website, they kind of know they have to have all those things.
I think it goes a lot deeper than that too, actually. I work with different mixed modality practices and med spas all across America, some in Canada as well. And I honestly say the number one issue that I see when it comes to the marketing for the spas themselves is something that you mentioned, which is not having cohesion. So a lot of times the owners will work with their cousin to write some copy. Then they'll hire a graphic designer from Upwork. Then they'll hire an advertiser just for Facebook and Instagram over here. And then they have somebody trying to do Google ads over there. And because it's a mixed bag of all these different contractors and family and friends kind of doing everything together, they're never really building from a centralized foundation. So they don't have the same core offers. They don't have the same positioning. And I honestly believe that that's truly the reason why a lot of the brands are struggling, is because they're trying to go in every direction except for moving forward with just one. So we really try to rebuild a lot of those assets for them pretty much all at the same time.
Right. And you have to learn that. You don't always know that when you start a business. It's just the more, and I think it's important to have different interactions with people, right, that specialize in marketing. Maybe go and talk to 10 people and learn something from each one. What are they telling you? This is what it's going to take. If they're telling you SEO, understand what SEO is, learn about it, and kind of whatever the brand, the cohesiveness, who is your, what do they would always tell you, okay, you're trying to build your, who's your target audience? What is your avatar? Who is your person that you're trying to treat or bring in? And that, for me, it's like the same person, but it's not. It's also different people in different areas. It's a different person. My patients in Ocala are different than my patients in Miami, are different than my patients in Tampa. To some extent there is some overlap, but the demographics are different, whether it's age or skin type or income, and there's just a lot of variations there. So that's not something that I knew when I started my business. It's not something that I knew when I even started using social media or advertising, right? It's something that, I learned over time, kind of going to more, I think it's important, go to more, webinars and conferences and learn about your business and your industry. And especially if there's things that you feel like you're weak. So if you're weak in marketing, which I think is the number one thing that you have to do now, you cannot do anything with any business today without marketing. People just think things are going to happen organically, and they cannot happen organically anymore. Everyone's on their phone, we're on the computer, and if we need something, we're researching that digitally before anything else. We're not opening the yellow pages, right? This is where we are now. So you have to show up. And now with AI and ChatGPT and all these other, right, search engines that you could use that are basically consolidating all this information for you. I have patients who I'm like, hey, how did you hear about us? They're like, oh yeah, I just asked ChatGPT what is the best place to go for this or that, right, service. And so I'm like, okay, well, that means probably there's enough data on the internet that kind of directed that to you, to your business, right? You have to have enough SEO, enough presence, enough links, enough. So it's really important to also not just use one thing to get yourself out there. You have to use, and that's something that I learned over time, right? You have to use multiple things. You cannot just, go out there and be like, yeah, I'm just going to do Instagram, but if you're just going to post, are you going to do ads? Are you going to do organic? Are you going to do Google ads as well? You have to do a little bit of everything. And I feel in behind the scenes, right, YouTube, whatever behind the scenes, it's all out there. So you're able to kind of drive more traffic with all these algorithms, or I'm not going to pretend to know what's really going on, technologically speaking, but I see the impact when I'm making those investments in my businesses. And when I do use multiple avenues to kind of target the same thing, I get more return than when I'm just using one avenue.
Yeah, that
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're opening up the channels, and you also talked about the demographics of the people changing depending on the locations. Sometimes those demographics respond differently depending on which channel you are on as well too. So I'm curious, at what point in time did you start to see that your marketing strategy was going to evolve? Was it really the kickstart of opening the new locations and finding out that they're not the exact same type of people, or was it something else?
I think so. When I opened the Miami location, that was the first time that I decided to start using SEO and kind of sign up. And I built a relationship with somebody who was doing that for me, who I still work with, and he helps me work on, with all my companies. But that, and then I never did Facebook ads. Like I never did it until like maybe the last couple years. When business is good, you don't really think about it. My marketing spend was really minimal. Like I think I was up through like 2021, like 2% of my revenue was marketing.
Wow, that's quite low.
I know. And then after 2021, I was probably like, when the economy kind of took a turn, I was probably closer to like 10%.
Yeah.
So, it's hard. And then when I'm doing more marketing because I'm not getting what I need, then I realize, oh, now I'm learning about when it's tough, you're like, oh my God, what do I need to do? What else do I need to do? Right? So then you kind of learn and then you have marketing people constantly bombarding you, just emails, text messages, Instagram messages, probably that, automated Instagram messages. And so I start to okay, when you're kind of like, okay, things are not going that well, let me hear what this person has to say, and this person has to say, and this person has to say. And they're, if you're really there and you're really listening and they're really interested in helping you, you really can learn from these people a lot and realize what you really need to do to make it work.
I think that's a reflection of the inner educator in yourself as well too, that you're a good student as well, and that you're open to hearing and learning, which is really, really great. So I want to pivot a little bit. I'm really curious about how you basically navigated exiting your business, and I know that you still have a relationship with it today. Obviously, you were the founder, but you, I think, stepped out of that CEO role. How did that all play out? How did you know it was time to exit?
I didn't know or plan to do anything. I guess when you get to the point where you're of a certain size, and it just happens to be that the aesthetics or med spa market, there seems to be some consolidation happening, just the timing of interest of private equity to consolidate, which I think a lot has to do with a little bit with the economy and resources and lowering costs and, getting a better return on your investment and all that, but we don't have to get into all that. But then people start reaching out to you, right? So when people started reaching out to me is when I started entertaining that idea, because, running a business is hard. And it was economically expanding significantly in 2021 to the third location plus surgery center, which I consider a fourth location. Plus, I expanded the Tampa location to an extra 3,000 square feet. Those expenses did not, I didn't get my return after that year, considering all these expenses that I added to my plate. And so I was kind of keeping my head above water at that point. And so every year was just keeping my head above water, trying not to terminate my employees, keep them on their full-time salaries because they have bills to pay too, and trying not to cut hours. There was a lot of internal struggles there, having to take a credit line out just to kind of make sure I can keep up with the bills, the marketing spend, all that stuff. And so I met with this one investor. He's that was looking into purchasing a clinic. He was interested in the Miami location for his wife. And he said, when you get big enough, the sharks will start, circling around. So I kind of remember that. But I got a bunch of people reaching out. I entertained a few of them, kind of sent them some financials, kind of just, hey, I wonder what the valuation will be, right? At that point, you're just kind of curious, like, what is it going to be? What does it look like? And it was interesting. The most interesting part to me was the structure of the different offers. So there's like structures that are like, we're just going to buy you out. Here's what I'm willing to pay you. Just flat out, stay, don't stay, whatever. And then there's the structures of like, we're going to own everything. And if you want to come to work, we're going to pay you like 30% of whatever you make. Okay. Like, we're not paying you a salary. We're just going to pay you 30% of the revenue. And then there's like the structures of, then I had another offer that was more like a 45-55 type of split, where they were going to own majority. I stay on board. I still get, they're consolidating. I still get a second bite of the apple when they sell in X number of years, get paid your salary, things like that. There were just different things, different percentages, different structures. But the company that I decided to go with, I kind of, I had to think through those things. Like, do I want to stay? Do I want to continue working? Like, is this enough for me to not continue working? Which it's not, but it's nice, but it's not enough. And so after working through all those things and having all the offers and thinking everything through, and also choosing to partner with a company that like was good for my current employees, for my business, is it going to be better for them? Are they going to offer them, benefits, better pay? Like, what is all that going to look like? And then at that point, I made the decision to partner with one of the companies that really I thought was the best fit in terms of the structure, the partnership structure, so to speak. Yeah.
So when you started to get offers, were you getting all of them kind of around the same time, or were they just kind of slowly coming in and then you just kind of started thinking about those ideas?
It was like in a 1.5 year time frame. They were just people like reaching out like, hey, we're interested. Some people I entertained, some people I didn't. Just, yeah, it was all kind of every couple months I was getting like an email of some sort. So
was the selling process difficult, or did you find any challenges in that?
Yes, it was difficult in terms of, I think when I started getting offers, then I thought, maybe I should put myself out there as like, hey, I'm selling. I did like talk to a broker and did not do a good job of reviewing that contract. And so I ended up, which, something definitely I recommend to people to, even if you're like a smaller one person operation, just you almost kind of like need to get a lawyer for everything these days that can spell everything out for you. Cause like you miss this like fine little print. You're like, really? You're going to take a piece of my salary, my earn out, my sale, my future equity, that's just insane. Like I didn't, it was more like, oh yeah, we're just going to take like 5%, but it's not exactly, we're just going to take 5%. Right. So then I realized, oh, I just learned something new today. But so there was a little bit of challenge there where I had to kind of get out of that whole agreement, and I actually had to postpone the entire sale process because I just wasn't willing to do that type of sale with that much of the equity being taken out. And then, so that was one challenge. And then just like, it was a cool learning experience because you start to understand like the due diligence process. How does the buyer think? What are they looking at? All the little things that go into it. Like we offer so many services, like transferring all the accounts, the vendors, it's just like a lot of stuff. It's a lot. They have a very good team and they're good people. So it did really make it very easy to do that. But, overall I can't complain.
I have a follow-up question on that as well too, actually. You said you were learning a lot about like the buyer's perspective. I'm wondering if somebody has 2 locations or maybe even 3 locations, what should they be thinking about if they do want to exit? What's a piece of advice that you would have for them coming from the buyer's perspective that you have learned?
Yeah, that's a really good question. At the end of the day, for them, I feel like it's mostly about the numbers. Right. And what are they, how quickly are they going to get the return? Most of the valuations that I received We're in the, I'd say like 1.2 to 1.5 gross revenue price point of like selling, not including all the other, well, I mean, and that's with like earnouts and all that stuff, not including like your annual salary if you decide to stay on. So, you know, I had somebody recently ask me like, oh, I just want to sell. And I'm like, okay, but what are you making? Like, are you going to be good with this amount? 1x, 1.5x. Obviously, having like more locations, you can definitely push. Think about where you're bringing value and where, you know, what you're unique in and what you can push a little bit and get a little bit more out of the situation, or how you can bring value as a partner if you're trying to get a little bit more out of your sale.
Yeah.
So there's different things. I like negotiated some other things on the back end for myself that they were like, oh, we didn't do this for any other company, any other person. And it's like, okay, but you know, I was looking at it from my perspective, and you know, it's just like I'm putting my skin in the game and I want something out of it too.
Yeah. So what year was it that you had exited?
I sold in October of 24.
Okay. And how has that relationship been since? I know you are still involved, correct?
Yeah. I'm still working for all 3 locations, and I'm still pretty much helping with, you know, I don't have to like check the payroll anymore, and I don't have to place the orders or like oversee order placement or, you know, oversee every single day-to-day operations, but I still do high level kind of management. And like right now, my name is still on the door. It's not going to be by the end of the year. They are going to be rebranding to the new company, but you know, like I'm still the medical director, and so the experience for the patient and the care that we're providing still has to be right at a certain level and certain quality. So I do still provide some significant oversight on what's happening, what to do, how to do it, because these guys in like the C-suite, right, they're not there to handle the day-to-day operations. Like, and our liaison is there for like support, but like it's really the people inside the business that have to run the business, and not like bother somebody who's working on some much higher level things with all like the day-to-day small stuff. That's not what their job is. And that works within the business too, right? There's a hierarchy in the business of like people who are managing more high level stuff, making decisions. There's the people who like implement and hold people accountable. And then there's the people who are actually doing the job and making sure that, you know, those things are getting done, whatever the plan is, whatever the vision is, whatever the, you know, strategy is for the business to boost their revenues. So it's just like a bigger pyramid.
I'll be super interested to stay in touch with you and see how the whole rebrand goes and everything like that. I think that if somebody watching this is going to get acquired as well, or potentially go through some type of rebranding, I think it would be incredible to hear just like firsthand from your experience on like how that's going to be. And it totally makes sense. If you're still going to be the medical director, there's still standards to upkeep. Obviously, your name is still involved. You're still involved. So that's really cool. I think this is a good point to end off. But before we go, I want to circle back to what we spoke about at the very beginning, actually, which is that you started this business with your mother. How is she doing? Is she still involved? Does she feel like she secured the American dream when you had exited?
She is now working with me strictly at the school. So we're just kind of working together, growing that. I took her out of the med spa just because she was kind of just doing admin at that point. She wasn't providing as much services as she did before. And so I was like, you don't need to be here and kind of be on somebody else's payroll. Just let's kind of do something together on our own where you can still be your own boss kind of thing. Because she's a boss. So working for someone is not, I don't think is for my mom.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It sounds like she's got the like a really good setup with working with you and also with your brother and everything like that.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah, she teaches there too at the Beauty and Health Institute. So she'll kind of fill in if they need a substitute or.
It's awesome. Well, I'll make sure that we leave all the links to all of your different businesses and projects down below. If you guys have enjoyed the episode, I'd ask you to hit the like button, follow, and subscribe. And you can learn more about Tali by visiting her website, which is arvivaesthetics.com. You have multiple locations here in Florida, and also the Training Institute and the Surgery Center as well too. So there's plenty of ways to get in touch with Dr. Tali if you are interested in doing so. And then last question I have as well too, do you ever do consulting, or do you ever work with other med spa owners like one-on-one, or ever host any type of classes online?
I do sometimes, there is like some non-compete for me on the consulting side. So I will either like refer out to someone that I know and I trust, or it really depends, because sometimes consulting for some people is just, I don't know what licenses to get, where do I go, which website, so I'll give them some resources, and, sometimes it's more involved. So consulting is just, it's a very big word. I feel like there's just too many topics to cover when it comes to consulting. But I will get requests sometimes, everything from like startup to we're already operating and we just need to set up like the aesthetics portion within our spa, or things like that. And my mom does a lot of consulting for people who want to open up schools. She's opened like 8 schools in the last 2 years with people who are just interested in investing in cosmetic type schools.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that anybody who's watching this is going to get a ton of value, and it's almost serving as their own consulting hour as well too, which is really great. But I'll leave all of the contact information below that you feel comfortable with, and I'm sure a few people will be reaching out to you. But thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks. Nice seeing you, Alex.
Yeah, you too.